We will be evaluating the wireless carrier companies in the US. And the structure of our analysis is going to be, first, defining the objectives of this study. Second, the product definition. Third, we're going to evaluate the supply, meaning the whole industry of the wireless carriers. Then we will be evaluating the demand in this industry. And lastly, we will present the corresponding conclusion. Basically, the objective of this study is to analyze the industry in order to advise a company who wants to enter the business of the wireless carriers in the United States.
Now I'm gonna define the product or service. Wireless carriers provide commercial services or mobile, cellular, or satellite phones or other kinds of radio communications. They are defined by the Federal Communications Commission, and they offer their service to individuals or businesses within its assigned spectrum block and geographical area, or they also can offer real-time two-way voice service that is interconnected with the public switched network, including our such service. They are also known as mobile network operator, mobile phone operator, mobile operator, cellular company, or a wireless service provider. And for a company that aspires to become a carrier, normally they have to start by applying for a radio spectrum license from the government. They will have the geographical area of operations, so we are focusing on the United States. And despite focusing on the United States, the principal wireless carrier companies, they also operate in lots of countries. For example, AT&T operates in more than 135 countries, Verizon on more than 100, and T-Mobile operates for almost all countries in the world. So then we have the complementary products. We would only have mobile phones, as they are the main device that is used with wireless carriers. For example, mobile phones, the type of phone or their characteristics don't usually are important. Then we have the substitute product. There are not really any substitute product to wireless carriers, as they offer a pretty unique service. However, we could have the more closest substitute product that they would have will be online calls like Instagram, Skype, or Discord. But as they don't require a CSIM card, they can't be considered a substitute product.
Industry. We have the structure and organization. In the beginning, it was a monopoly where only AT&T operated. But due to the regulation by the US authorities, new competitors emerged at a national level. With this, the companies began to merge, giving rise to the current situation that is an oligopoly, which, thanks to the justice, has protected competition by preventing massive merge by leading companies to avoid returning to a monopoly situation again. It's a Stackelberg model of an oligopoly, because when one of the companies makes a move in their plan, the rest of the companies are forced to do the same. For example, this happens when T-Mobile has lowered the prices, so the other firms have to do the same in order to stay in the market. In the barriers to entry, we have the lack of public airways in the telecommunication industry that creates a high barrier to entry. The US telecom market is controlled by just 3 national companies, as regional low-cost operators are not eligible to compete with the large carriers. It's not easy to establish a new telecom carrier, since it will require government approval to transmit voice, data, video on public airwaves. Spectrum licenses are limited and therefore quite expensive. Moreover, the deployment of new network infrastructure requires significant capital amount, which very few entities can afford. And on the right, you can see the barrier checklist. Here you can see the competitors. In the USA, there are near 747 wireless telecommunication carrier businesses, but it's only controlled by 3, which are AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile US. AT&T is the most important in the US. It was created in 1983. Because it was a monopoly, and it was divided into several ones to create an oligopoly, where Verizon came from. So Verizon then is the second largest. It was founded in 1983 after the separation of AT&T, and then T-Mobile It's the third largest. The market shares, we can see that AT&T has 46, Verizon 28.7, T-Mobile 24.6, and the others 0.7. So this market HHI, it's of 3,545.34, which means that it's a highly concentrated marketplace because the entire market is ruled only by three companies.
When it comes to consumer preferences and behavior in the wireless carrier companies in the United States, there's two main things we have to take into account. The first is that longevity determines the loyalty of a customer, which means that the more time that they've been with a company, the less likely it will be for them to change the wireless carrier. And the second is that price and quality are the two main factors that determine the decision when it comes to choosing the carrier company, while 5G technologies ranks third in the least of priority. Which leads us to our second point, which is how to influence the consumer behavior when it comes to preferences. And the 5G technology presents the benefits with the fact that the most young generations will start acquiring this 5G technologies, start decreasing their Wi-Fi consumption because they see more benefits of having this stable and mobile connection instead of having a stable and set connection either at home or at work. So making the benefits of a 5G technology something that's more tangible in the environment would allow a company that offers this service to capitalize on an opportunity in the market, especially if they also take into account the 5G FW technology, which would allow a customer to have a stable Wi-Fi connection, not in one location, but in two locations at the same time, which would mean that you can have the same Wi-Fi contracts for both your home and your work because of this new technology, which is very trendy and very appropriate for the needs of the younger generation.
Now, we will talk about price setting. All three companies engage in price discrimination, charging different prices to different types of consumers. We observe two main types in Verizon, second and third degree discrimination. Verizon charges different prices according to how many lines someone contracts. For instance, one line under 5G do more costs $80, while if three are contracted, this costs $55 each. We also observe third degree discrimination according to consumer groups. In Verizon, military, first responders, nurses, and teachers are charged 14.5% less on average. In basic plans, we can observe loyalty discounts, charging less consumers to stay for longer in the company. Even in this, nowadays consumers demand data. In AT&T, we have similar trends to Verizon, yet second-degree discrimination is minus 25% for same consumer groups, less than 10% with respect to Verizon. In T-Mobile, these consumers are differentiated between military and first responders and seniors plus 55 years old on the other hand. These are price discriminated differently, minus 18.5% to the former and minus 16% to the latter. There also is further price discrimination based on quantity, offering same total prices for 2 and 3 lines, so 3 for the price of 2. First degree discrimination is very difficult to calculate since it is down to each individual customer and how much he or she is willing to pay. So unless you consider making yourself a yogurt and a string combo or a secret spy radio, there are no substitute for wireless carriers. Its complementaries are phones, ranging from the cheapest at Walmart from $1999 to $1,599, the newest iPhone, with many options in between. When it comes to taxation of wireless carriers, first of all, we can find the 911-988 tax. These taxes are imposed at state level for funding of capital and operating expenses of 911 emergency systems, being highest at $5 per line in Chicago to $0 in Missouri. 988 is 12 cents per month in Virginia, and it serves to fund suicide prevention lines. The State Universal Service Fund, also called the USFS, funds access to telecommunications of rural and low-income areas. Its highest is in Nebraska at $1.75 per line or at 7.1% in Arkansas. And finally, for instance, the administrative charges cover maintaining costs, which therefore are carrier personal.
The conclusion of our analysis is that the wireless carrier industry in the United States has very high barriers of entry. Since it is an oligopoly, the three main competitors of the market already have ownership over the most amount of the market share in this industry. Hence, it would be very hard for a new company to come into this market. However, taking into account the pricing discrimination strategies, the consumer preferences, and the strategies to modify it also mentioned before, we believe that although it is hard for a company to enter the market, it would be possible following a very detailed plan and having a thorough understanding of how the industry behaves and all the stakeholders involved in it.